Let's start from the beginning. Um, we're gonna talk about this. This is the Freenit framework, and specifically, we're going to talk about what we have done in the front end for this tutorial. Um, we saw what the designer actually is. We saw that it has some certain features and so on, but a general overview in a first lecture, and then we created uh, pages for. Sorry, then we created pages for these, right? For detail and list, blog detail and list, and then we um, converted the design into a page that we basically have now, and we saw how to map the data to the UI, how to render it, and tell the browser what to put on the screen. Today we're going to talk about store. What's the difference between a store and just a regular object or variable? Uh, why we cannot use store? Uh, the use cases where store is not good, and the use cases where just a plain variable is not good. So hopefully we're going to cover um, what store is, how it works, and why it's there. Why do we even have it? Right. So uh, let's go to the last step. And the last step is that we have in a blog as a page, we are going to have pages divided into files so that every, like the entity, blog being like a group of blog detail page and blog list page, and we're going to put some other files today here, but this blog is going to have always going to have an index which says this is what blog is. Currently it's a detail page and a list page, and it's going to grow as we add stuff. And today's stuff we're going to add is going to be the store.js. We're gonna see how that is used, how it's registered. Like when you need to register a page, when you have a design and you need to register a page on a certain URL. Uh, this is kind of similar. We are going to have multiple stores and we have to address them differently and register them under certain names so we know how to use them and which one is which. So that's the core of today's lecture, understanding how to create a store and register it in Freenit. So let's let's deal with the code already. Let's get to the dirty details of JavaScript. Anyway, this is what we have, right? So this is basically what we just saw, and we're going to create a store JS And at store.js, it's gonna magically become what I want it to become. I'm gonna just dump it here and then I'm gonna tell you what actually happened. Maybe repeat the process, but I'm just gonna write it really quick right now. So, if I want Freenit based store, the class for it, I have a shortcut which writes most of the code for me. And what I'm creating a store for is a blog. So I'm just gonna write a blog here. And you can see that the blog, this is where I'm writing it, this area. And when I write blog here, this where it says just the store is going to be capitalized. So when I write blog, every letter, the lower or upper case is going to be what it needs to be. And this is how you write the store. Lesson over. Just kidding. There's a lot of going on under the hood, and I want you to understand this. But also, I don't want you to stare at me debugging the code. And also, I'm lazy, so I like programming like this. I just write, let me show you again. I just write store. I press the down key and I select which of the completion items I want. And the Freenit is the one that I desire. When I press enter, no, sorry, I didn't press enter. I have chubby fingers, and then I say I want blog store. Why? Come on. Again? Wow, everything is wrong. Give me just a sec. Let me try something. Okay. Store.js. What? All right. All right. I got it. It doesn't matter. It's something about the key binding. I'm not going to talk about it. So this is the process of writing the store when you have it automated and nicely integrated uh, with the rest of the backend. And with Freenit, you know that if you write it like this, it's going to work just perfectly with the backend. You don't have to ask yourself, is the Django in the backend or some other language or REST API, JSON, blah, blah, blah. It just integrates nicely. And then when integration is done, you can automate stuff like this. Because most of this is going to be repeated over time. And let me show you just what this is. Um, right. So block store is most of the time going to have six functions that you have to write. They are special functions. Uh, Most of them look alike, except the constructor. Constructor is special among special functions. It's what construct our block store. So it works before the block store is even created. That's what constructs our block store. Hence the name, right? But the rest of the functions, if you can see, they're not like that. if you can see, there is async everywhere, right? And we know that async uh, is it's telling us that it's going to talk to the backend. Why is it telling us that? Is because um, when there's a request from the front end to fetch some data, front end is in your browser as a user, but the backend is, I don't know, maybe in America, and or if you're in America, maybe it's in Asia or whatever. So there is a time delay between the request and the response. So in order for your browser not to stuck there and knows, hey, I'm just waiting for the data doing nothing, you can do something else. I mean, the browser, the JavaScript interpreter in a browser can do something else while waiting for the data. And when the data from the backend is received, it unfreezes the function that is async or asynchronous function and say, okay, here's the data, just carry on, uh, do what you have to do. And this is why communication with the backend is async. We just don't want to like do nothing while the rest of the system waits for us. We want to tell to the system, okay, this function is not going to be synchronous. So at some point, I'm going to tell you, okay, go do something else, right? And that point is when you say await. This is where we are waiting for the because we are having REST API in the backend. This is called REST. So we are sending GET request to the REST API on this URL, this endpoint, and we are sending these headers. For now, we are going to ignore them. I'm gonna get back to them when we have the UI for it. It's gonna be much easier to explain what it is. Uh, so, but basically, we are sending some data, and that data in this instance is in headers. So fetch all or give me all blog posts, the list of blog posts is going to request the data from the REST backend, REST API, through the get method. It's HTTP method. There are few methods that we are going to cover today. There are more than we are going to cover today, but it's more than enough. And we have URL where we're sending it and data if data exists. I mean, get request is valid as this, but we want it as this. And once we get the result, once this loop is closed, I mean, request and response have happened, we get the result and we set the list to that result. And also, when we return that result, because whoever called this function maybe wants to know which exactly data at that point was returned from the backend. Maybe you're requesting multiple, um, not multiple URLs, but requesting the same data multiple times for some reason. And then in each iteration, you want to know exactly which data was returned. Because in a store, you're going to have only the latest data. Whatever put the data on a store with either set list or set detail, as we're going to see in a fetch. Just give me a sec. So set list, uh, constructs this list. It's just like saying this dot list equal result, but uh, this won't do. There there are situations where you don't want this because it's not gonna send the data out to the render and your browser. We're gonna go back to that also when we use the store in the front end. I mean, in the render. Sorry. So if there's an error, just return an error and say, okay, false, right? This is okay, true. So we know if we need to raise some flag or something, we're just telling the rest of the front end, hey, there was an error or not. So this is the way to get that. Uh, Now that we have this function, and you can imagine it's like this for now. That we have this one function, let's use that one function, and then I'm going to explain the rest of these async using this one as a reference. I think that's going to be the easiest way. So you just go ahead and imagine this is the code. I'm gonna return it to this just to be proper and not forget it later and debug why some things don't work. But we want only, okay, only this in our focus. So now we created a file, but nothing uses it, right? There is no code that imports this file, so it's not used at all. And to actually use the store, you have to put it in a provider. Provider is what's going to, well, it sounds silly when I say it like this, but it's going to provide a store to other pages and components and whatnot, other pieces of code that can use um, the store. So, yeah, this is not going to work. And I'm gonna tell you why, because it might be a common, how it's called, a common, when you fall into it, like a common pit, or very common thing to do wrong. So all of this needs to resemble a role because we need to have a detail and a list, and we have initial data that will be in that store for the blog list and blog detail. Actually, I didn't write it, so this doesn't work. But this is how we are registering store once we have it in the blog. So just like these three lines, and it's registered under the name blog. I mean, we can write anything we want here. Just make it make it simple, and we're gonna have enough problems already. So this is not going to work because this blog doesn't contain our store. We are calling blog.store and blog.initial, and we don't have that. How do I know that? Is because the syntax doesn't have them. There is no store and there is no initial, right? So it's going to be there. Where very soon. Store from store. As a matter of fact, even this is not right, but we're going to improve it as we learn it. Um, all right, we're going to have these two files. We already have store. Now we are going to write the initial. As a matter of fact, no, this is good. No, this is all good. And we're finished with registering. We have this, and we're missing just the initial parameters. Let me just write it. I'm gonna explain it in just a second. So let's say I'm calling it initial, right? Very imaginative. And initial is going to have detail, which is going to be an object, and it's going to have a list that's going to be an object. And then I'm going to export it. So this code here can use it. All right. What I'm saying with this that once the block store is created, how do you want me to look like when there's still no backend data returned in these async functions? What do you want if somebody access the block store? What do you want me to tell them? And this is what I want you to tell them. There is detail and a list in the initial data that are objects, and they're going to be filled with some data later on. Uh, as a matter of fact, initial is going to be for the list. It's going to be data which is array, list, depending on the language, right? It's going to be pages and total. Okay, so this is going to be the basic layout of the structure. In this data, there's going to be some objects, but let's just break it down slowly. And pages, leave it for later. Total is the total number of uh, objects of blog posts in this list in the database, not this list, but in the database how many blog posts there are, because our backend is going to return 10 by 10 blog posts, for example. It can be configured to return any amount of blog posts, but I'm just imagining that, I don't know, if you have this grid, probably you're gonna want 9 by 9 because 3 by 3 is nicely put. That's what we have in our design. And you will probably have like 9 items in this array, right? And this is going to say, I don't know, you have 23 blog posts, and they are in, if you divide it by 9, uh, doesn't even matter. No. For now, let's say 0. We're going to explain pages later visually. But yeah, initial data, I want everything to be zero length data, pages are 0, totally 0, right? Everything. We're going to see the same. The similar is going to be written for the detail, but when we get to that. So this list is initially going to end up in this list. I mean, literally, this dot list. This is uh, initial list is going to be put here, and then the initial list is going to be ignored for the rest of the program. And these functions, these async functions, are going to change the data in the list and the detail, but list for now only. And our render, so let's see that. Oh, yeah, we have this, but we can ignore it. Our render is going to use that, as we saw last time, as a variable, just a normal one, and it's gonna magically, this render is gonna magically know when the data in the store changed. Uh, for that magic to work, we need to use, as you see here, set list and not this dot list equal result. This is what makes the render aware that there's new data and this blog list UI, for example, has changed, or whatever we have in this blog list data, right? This is what we um, simulated as our store. Is something similar is going to be in this list here, right? So if if we change this blog list from some other function, the render won't be notified. But if we change with this set list, the data, then render magically works. Okay, but let's see how it works. First and foremost, you need to import this with store function from Freenit and export your component with a with store. That means that in the no, let's say like this: const I want block store, so this props store. What this does is create a constant called blog so that it matches the blog store, which is in this object but in my props. This is how I read this line, because it has to make sense. It's the data. It's complex, and it must make sense to you. So this is a blog store right now, and let's just see what's in this blog list that we say initially is uh, is almost empty. I mean, it has some data, but it's dummy data. And what? Come on! Can something work today? No. All right. My browser says my backend, my front end is not available. Beautiful. All right. We're back in business. Let me see how the browser looks like. Yeah, it's cool. Now, a little bit better. Oh, my head is in the wrong place. All right. So, what we have here is a blog site. And when we go to the slash blog, is it blogs? All right. Yeah. We get what we had in a design, just rendered using data, put on screen using data. So, oh yeah, I wanted to show something else. Console log. So we see that the list that we are printing is empty array, pages 0, total 0. So it's the initial data that's in the store right now. And it's not very fun, right? But we can do this. If we don't use blog list but use it as this, we're going to do exactly the same thing with using the store, just like we did with using the data. Our store is empty. Oh, wait, no, I'm showing the code and I'm not showing you. All right. So this is the difference. This is the original, right? So this variable, this object, is used to render the data here. And if we don't use it like this, but like this, so this blog list and its data, which is array, like here, it's mapped to whatever it's mapped from before, and it's one paper is going to create the same UI. Actually, I'm lying as always. It's going to create nothing because we have zero length array, right? But we can, for the sake of simplicity, not yet installing backend. That would make stuff more complicated. So let's put initial data in here. That is no, actually like this. Exactly the same thing as this blog list is going to be here as an object, as an initial data. Am I showing the code? Oh, right. So I'm going to put this gibberish data into the initial one, and hopefully it's going to render absolutely the same thing as before, just using the store. So we're not going to progress much here. And look at that. That's exactly what happened. All right. But now, okay, I'm going to remove this. But now you can do some other stuff to influence um, this UI. But in order to simulate that, I need some more code. I'm gonna add just a dummy button that when you press it, is going to add one more blog post with hard coded data for now. And that's how we are going to imagine that the blog post data is fetched from the backend. We're just going to simulate there's a backend for now. So what we need is one button that's going to say, I don't know, click add blog post button. All right. And this button, oh, it does exist. Wow. Cool. So we're not going to use this. Actually, no, we are going to use this blog post list. Just give me some time. So we added a new one, a new button, and I mean, I'm not switching to code every now and then because this is a little bit dumb change. But let's say that we're going to write it like this, so that I can say variant is outlined, and it's going to have on click that says from this class block list that has render in it, we're going to create a function, a method that's going to add blog post in just a second. And we're going to tell the button when you're clicked, run that code. Just run it and that's it. And for now, let's see how it works when we click something and have add blog post is a function that is going to add on the console. Most of your development is going to start like this. You're going to create a function that just prints to the console, so you know that you triggered it, and then you're going to print maybe some parameters, maybe some store, whatever variables, and say, okay, this is the data I need. Now write the code. Uh, Mostly that's how I do it. So I obviously recommend a way to gather all the data, all the triggering uh, done, and then it, the rest is gonna fall in line. At least when you're working with a store, which is all about the data. So what I'm expecting now is that when I go to the browser, there's this. Okay, you go away. There's this button that when I'm okay, is my hand no. Uh, when I click it, you can see here that it's increasing. Right, that's how many times I call the console log with exactly the same parameter, and that's add. Right, that's what it's telling us here. So what if I'm not printing this, but I'm gonna print an object that has some. Oh my god, some ID. Okay, let ID equals 10. I'm just gonna make it up here. So I'm going to increase. I don't even know if JavaScript supports this. All right, some C++, and this is the syntax for it. Added blog post, and the content is going to be generated once abused all over the place. Right? It's like a bad random number generator. Right? We're generating this. Anyway, let's see what we're going to get here. We're going to increase the ID every time so that ID is actually um, unique. Did I? Ah, damn it. I didn't show the code again. So this is what I've done. I added a global variable with the initial value of 10. I increase it every time you click on a button. And I uh, console log this object that is basically the data for one blog post. And now, when I click this, what do you see? All right. So this is, I mean, I can add it multiple times, and you can see that ID is unique. All right. Now we need to push this data, this exactly same data, but actually put it in a store. Let's do one step before that. Let's just say data is this, right? So we get the same. Damn it! We get the same results. I mean, you can literally say that my brain is not functioning right with this forgetting to switch the screens. So I really hope you can follow. It's going to be in a repository, so uh, it's all going to be public. Anyway, when we return back to the browser, it should produce exactly uh, the same result, right? And we know how this data is generated. Let's leave it here to logged. But if we say we need blog from the store so that we can set list to the blog.list. So what this is doing is saying, okay, take the old value of the list and then change only the data so that the data is as it was in the blog list and just add one more um, okay, data. This is bad. Blog post, for example. Blog post and uh, blog post. All right. So let me now show you what I wanted to do. So we got the blog from the store and we call this a blog post as it is. And then we say, okay, take this blog store and set its list to the following object. That object is composed from the old list where the data in that blog list is changed. And it's changed so that it's array again. That array should uh, have all the elements that the old list had. Just add a new one. Just append a new one at the end. And ideally, this works. Now let's find out. All right, so I delete this. All right. So we can see I'm adding the blog post and we don't need this anymore, right? So I'm generating them and I'm putting them into this list of blog posts. So let's say I don't need this anymore. All right. Um, all right. So let's just see what's going on one more time. Uh, if I click here, there is data appended to the list of blog posts that are displayed as a grid. And let's say this is one page. When you click here, you should get another 9 blog posts. Ideally, not with the same picture, but you get the point. Now, this list, as it is add it to the store, you can imagine that it's coming from the backend. The data is coming from the backend. Now, let's see what happens if we just use a regular JavaScript object instead of the store to do the same thing. So, I need to switch the code. Now I really need to speak my intention out loud before I do it. So, let's say this is not active and also not this. We are using just a regular object here to render the data, whatever we are doing with this paper, to render it here. Now, if we just append, how does it work? Blog list dot push back. Uh, I obviously don't know how to append to an array in its push. All right, it's just a push blog post. So this should produce similar result, right? We are just appending to the list. No, actually, no. Damn it. Like this. So we have blog list, which is object, and data, which is array, and we are pushing into that data. And now I need to show you that actually nothing will happen when I click this. And when I say the store is magical, this is what I mean by magical. It knows when something is appended to a list. Uh, Truth to be told, this is much simpler than this. And this is not just simple appending to a list or array, but it's the kind of storing the data that will make render aware that uh, data has changed. So when we change all these back, and this is what the only thing that we need. Now our browser is looking like this. And when I add post it adds it right indefinitely. This is what we want. So this is the reason why we have a store. It's complex. I know it's not easy to understand. We are going to go over the store as we progress with the course, because store is going to be the place for the front end. Everything is going to be around the store. So if you having trouble understanding this, especially me being tired and not switching to the right screen at the proper time, don't worry, we are going to go over this multiple times and we're going to use this store uh, multiple times to explain what is going on, because data is the most important thing. You can improve security, you can improve UI, UX, whatever. You cannot improve data once it's written to the database. So that's why it's so important to do it properly. You can do it only once and that's it. So yeah, the reason what I'm trying to say is that the reason why the store is so complex is because the problem it's trying to solve is actually complex, and that's a good way of storing data and yet making it available to the rest of the system uh, in an easy way. Uh, as I said, we're going to talk about this probably for two more two more lectures, and I hope I'm going to make it clearer what I wanted to do. So thank you for watching, uh, and if by any chance you have enjoyed the video so far, the course so far, we have a Patreon page where we are collecting money for our next apartment to rent, so that we can have this lectures also live once the corona is over, hopefully soon. So please help us out in our endeavor to teach. We are organization that declared that all lectures are going to be free forever, or at least until the streaming services are free. But yeah, everything we do to teach is free of charge, free as in free software. Uh, it's usable knowledge either for commercial or hobby projects. So follow us on YouTube to be notified when there's a new stream, on Facebook and Twitter, Mastodon, and help us out. Thank you very much for your attention. That would be all for today, and I know it was hard. Please don't give up. It's gonna be easier later, I promise.